Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And boy, I'm glad that we did that special video last week about the Barbenheimer box office because I had a work event to go to and I almost nearly missed the show today. So clearly, life's willingness to interfere with me being on the show is inversely proportionate to how good the news is for the box office in general.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah. If you're new, welcome in. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're new, what we normally do is we start off with our thing of the week, which is a particular media that the two of us have been consuming. Then we move into box office discussion, of
Mhm.
which there really isn't that much. And
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 Barbie won again.
Yeah. And then we move into the topics of the discussion for the week. But my thing of the week is Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, which is now on Paramount Plus.
You poor man. I actually decided to try to give it a watch, and after about 5 minutes, I was like, this is just action figures being smashed together.
Oh, there was quite a lot of that, yeah. Um, so, uh, so this movie is takes place 7 years after Bumblebee. So it's in 1994, and
Yeah, it now makes me sad to realize that 90s nostalgia is for young people what like 60s or 70s nostalgia would be for us. It's like, why would you send it in a boring year like 1990? That wasn't that long. Oh my God, it was 30 years ago.
yeah, yeah, it's very hard. It's me where I live.
Yeah.
um,
Uh,
but yeah, the movie starts off. Actually, it starts off before that. The scene that DB was just referencing. The uh, the Maximals are on the run from the minions of Unicron, uh, called the Terracons, and
Not the
they're led by,
Predacons. Boo.
yeah, and they're led by their leader is Scourge, voiced
AKA
by,
Megatron.
yeah. He was one of Galvatron's minions in the animated movie. Um, and then I can't remember who the other. There were two other ones. I can't remember
But,
their names.
but clearly, Scourge was patterned off of the 90s version of Megatron from Beast Wars with like the
Yeah,
rotating tail sword arm thing. And
yeah. um, yeah, so they have in their possession the MacGuffin, which is called the Transwarp Key. Of course, I hear Transwarp and I think of Star Trek. Um, but apparently, it's a device that allows people to move through space and time to go anywhere in space and time. So basically, like the TARDIS. And so they have to keep it away from Unicron because they don't want him going around eating planets, and then they end up on
right,
Earth, of course.
because Unicron is kind of the Death Star and Galactus smashed together. Because
Pretty much, yeah.
he's a giant space stationy thing. What I thought one kind of cool thing in the about 10 minutes of it I watched was that it's like he had parasites on him, like mechanical parasites
Yeah,
crawling around.
yeah, and Scourge has these two like dog things that work with him. He has attached to him. Yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
he's the Death Star in that he's a giant orb. He's Galactus in that he eats planets and has heralds.
yes. And so they end up on Earth, and of course, then we're introduced to the main human character in the movie. His name is Noah Diaz. Excuse me, not Noah Davis. Noah Diaz. He's uh, young Puerto Rican man living in Brooklyn with his mom, who's a single working mom, and his younger brother, who has an illness. Um, and of course, it's the typical thing. They're trying to make ends meet, and he gets he you find out that he was in the army, and he was a communications specialist in the army.
Oh man, communications, that's a phony degree.
Yeah. Well, uh, does that technical expertise come into play at all in the movie to help him out with
Well,
helping the robots out?
yeah, I mean, considering that he's going to be hanging out with giant robots, clearly his technical expertise must be part of the movie, right?
No,
Of course.
no, doesn't come to play at all. And then we also meet the other human woman, Elena, who is an intern working at a antiquities museum on Ellis Island. And
Is there an antiquities museum on? I guess there could be, I suppose. Like there would be enough artifacts from all the immigrants coming through that you could do something with that.
yeah, yeah, I know there is a museum there. I just didn't realize it was I don't know if it's antiquities or not,
Hmm.
but uh, but yeah. So they get an artifact, and it's a bird. It's about this high, and they think it's Egyptian because might represent Horus, but it has the maximal symbol on the front of it.
Mm.
And you come to find out that inside of it is one half of the transwarp key, and of course it shoots a beam of light into the sky. Tell me if you've seen that before.
Yeah, this sounds suspiciously like the two different Justice League movies I saw that were technically the same Justice League movie.
Yeah. And so then that catches the attention of the Autobots, and the four Autobots that we meet are, of course, Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, RC, and Mirage. And through a series of circumstances, Noah ends up in Mirage, and that's how he gets wrapped up in all the stuff with the Autobots, because Optimus Prime wants the transwarp key because it's their way of getting back to Cybertron. And of course, they end up not getting that half. Scourge ends up getting it, and so then they have to go to South America to prevent Scourge from getting the other half. And that's when they run into the Maximals with Optimus Primal, they actually they meet Air Razor in New York.
Yeah,
And
Air
then
is a good choice to include.
yeah, um, and then yeah, I'll try to keep it like kind of spoiler light with it in case anybody out there might want to watch it.
I mean, Air Razor is in the movie, so most likely that's the character who would die, since it's one of the only characters in the original show who ended up dying, as memory serves.
Okay,
Mm.
that makes sense now.
Actually,
Um,
no, I think it's more they got merged into Tigertron and that's right, Tigertron and Air Razor. Who Air Razor was Air Razor a woman in this?
yes.
Okay. See, I know that in the Japanese dub, it was actually a guy, and they were doing they're doing a gay thing with the two of them,
Oh, jeez.
which I think that the character does actually look more male when you pay attention. So
Uh,
it's, but that's either here nor there.
yeah.
Um, so
But yeah, so they go to South America, and then they meet up with the rest of the Maximals. And of course, one of the big so two kind of big sticking points I had or negatives that I have with this movie. One is how Optimus Prime views humans. He
oh,
doesn't like humans. He, yeah, he doesn't trust them. He doesn't like being around them. And then, of course, there's only one reference in there to Bumblebee, and that's when Bumblebee tells him, hey, a human was really nice to me.
in that one movie from 2019 or so.
Yeah. And then, and of course, but then speaking of Bumblebee, uh, he gets knocked out for like almost all the movie. And I think that's for two
Oh,
reasons. Yeah, I think it's for two reasons. One, I mean, he had his own movie, so I mean, it's.
that's true. You don't want to get greedy.
Right, and two, they wanted more screen time for Mirage, who is voiced by Pete Davidson. You would recognize him if you saw him.
Yeah, I'm taking a moment here.
He,
Davidson. Oh, that guy.
yes,
So how on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the original Iron Man and 10 is Ant-Man Quantumania or Multiverse of Madness, how cringe Marvel humor is he?
um, probably I would closer to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania on that scale.
Oof. Oh, that sounds painful.
I mean, yeah, yeah, it's just like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know we were kind of young in 1994. I don't remember people fist bumping back then.
No, where I remember fist bumping really coming, like really becoming into its own, was around when Obama was elected because that's what he was doing.
Yeah, it
And
was. Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, it's like yeah, probably mid to late 2000s. Yeah, was when was when that came into thing. But like, so Mirage and Noah, Mirage like to Noah, hey, fist bump. I'm like, they weren't
that,
doing that then.
yeah, I mean that was like the era of high fives.
Yeah, I
Now, now I wouldn't doubt that. I think high five is one of those things where it started off with African American communities and then got popularized in media and just contact with people. So,
yeah,
so it could be that fist bumping was a thing back then. I guess it's also one of those things where that's what the kids do these days. So it's like if you're trying to relate to them. What was the name of that one show on that one cowboy show on HBO? Deadwood.
Deadwood. Yeah,
What I've heard is that it was based on real life, based on real life cowboys, and at the time they were seen as these like people who are just full on cursing all the time. Oh, they're so profane. And if you actually listen to the talk, they're like, "Dag nabbit,"
yeah,
like old timey miner talk, right? Which at the
right,
time was seen as profane because doesn't matter if they said "dag" instead of God and "nabbit" instead of "damn it." It's clearly. That's clearly profane anyway. Which, of course, if you did that, they would sound ridiculous. So that's why my show is full of f bombs and other
uh,
stuff. So,
yeah,
so so it would have the proper impact. So it's like if the kids would understand a fist bump, it's like okay, I guess it's allowable.
yeah. Okay, but um, but yeah, so the
That doesn't mean
movie,
that you're not allowed to be bothered by it, though. And you're right; it probably isn't historical that he would know what a fist bump was.
yeah, yeah. But I would say overall the movie is okay. It's not. I didn't think it was horrible. I like the action. I actually like the action scenes in this, and the CGI was pretty good. I would say that I like the action scenes in this better than the Michael Bay movies, because the Michael Bay movies were so chaotic and frenzied. Like, you couldn't.
Oh, you mean you could actually see what was going on in this? That's a huge
Yes,
step up.
yeah. You could actually see who was fighting who and what was going on. Yeah,
What a concept.
yeah. Um, but I mean, it was. I would say it's not as good as Bumblebee.
Okay.
Better than the last two Transformers movies with Mark Wahlberg.
Which isn't hard.
Yeah. And then, but I would say it's kind of on par. It's somewhere between. I would say better than Revenge of the Fallen, yeah, better than Revenge of the Fallen, but maybe not quite as good as Dark of the Moon.
Okay.
Yeah. Um. So it's nothing special. It's just kind of a, I mean,
Mhm.
it kept me entertained. It kept me kind of engrossed in the story. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I can see why this movie wasn't really uh popular.
Yeah. And when I was like being negative on it before, it's probably because I was like split between what to do with my nights. Like, I guess I might give this movie a shot. So it's like when you're already kind of on the fence about watching it or not, you're
Yeah,
kind of looking for reasons to go do something else.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah. So one other thing, and this is a spoiler for the end of the movie. Although I don't feel too bad about spoiling it because I don't think this is going to happen. Um,
Okay.
at the end of the movie, Noah goes in for a job interview, and but the job that he's interviewing for isn't the job that he thinks he is, and then he finds out that it's actually working for a top secret government organization. Now, at first, I thought it was Sector 7 because that's the top secret organization in the Transformers universe. But no, it's GI Joe.
Yeah, with this movie making about 450 million worldwide on a budget of 195, that that seems likely that somebody over at Hasbro is going to go, hold on, guys, this might not be the wisest idea.
Yeah, yeah, and the his so Noah's a whole communications speciality. It didn't. It took me until after the movie was over to figure out who they were setting him up to be. And if you know your GI Joe lore,
Which I don't.
uh, Breaker.
Hmm. Okay. I mean,
Breaker was the communications guy on GI Joe.
now, I guess one amusing thing about nobody really going to see this particular, or not nobody, but fewer people going to see this particular movie, is that it means that they could come out with the GI Joe movie, and the stink of this movie wouldn't necessarily reflect on it.
Yeah, that's
Now,
true.
the stink of that Snake Eyes movie that they came out with a few years back, that could do it. But
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, but regardless, I'm glad you had a good time with it.
yeah, yeah.
I had a kind of a similarly mixed reaction to the movie that I saw. So I had taken some time off of work, and I'd been kind of working out, doing some writing, um, a few other things, and I said to myself, I feel like I haven't really gone anywhere. I should go see this movie that I saw reviewed over on a film threat last month. And this is one where it's actually already available to buy digitally. So and I actually was on the fence, like, okay, do I? Well, I would have to wait until the Friday of that week to actually see it. When I was like, but I'm free Tuesday.
Mm,
So I went down. I drove an hour to the only theater that was still showing it in easy driving distance, um, to see Joyride. What might have changed my mind is if I had known that Seth Rogen was producing,
oh,
which I'll get into in a second.
mm,
So the base premise of Joyride is it's very much like The Hangover, and that it's four friends in different stages of their life go on a wacky adventure that that redefines their lives.
mm, mm.
Um, Now, I haven't ever actually bothered to go see The Hangover because I never thought it looked especially funny.
And
Uh,
the first one was pretty. The first one's pretty funny.
okay,
The second one is basically the first one, except they're in Thailand instead of Vegas. And then the
guessing a
third,
lot of jokes about ladyboys.
yeah, and then the third one was awful. Um, and hey, Chengus, good to see you.
Hey, Changus. Yeah, so I think but I'm sounding kind of negative, but I actually watching it was kind of fun. So I don't know the actresses' names and I don't remember their characters' names. So I'm just gonna shake my mouse. Actually, we'll go left to right. So you kind of have some of the stock characters for this type of movie. On
Yeah,
the left here, you have this non-binary person who, uh, which actually only really came up at the end, and it's kind of like, okay, you're clearly, I think they whatever clearly kind of on the
yeah,
spectrum.
yeah,
Um, Big into K-pop, no direction in life, nothing really going on. In fact, at the end of the movie where they're meeting up and you see what they've been up to, I think the only thing that was really going on with them was that they were non-binary or something, and they might have been working at the restaurant more.
uh,
But the quirky one, one of the better scenes in the movie is she's playing card games with her cousin, and she's just making up the rules to steal his money.
uh,
Like what game? What game are you playing? Oh, I just put down cards in a random order until it's an American game. Oh, you have a four. She switches to Chinese. Oh, you have a four. You lose automatically. Um, then you have the high flying lawyer who uh, there was like a stage in the 80s and 90s where you people would adopt the orphanages in Korea and China and some of those countries in East Asia would adopt children to the West, and
Mm.
so she's basically culturally white, and is actually kind of oddly racist against Chinese as they're in China,
Oh, jeez.
which is a source of some humor.
Yeah.
To the right here, you have her slacker loser best friend, who is a artist who she's like, oh sure, my art looks like it's just for shock value, but it's, it's all about all about breaking down boundaries. When it's just the art is like mostly like phalluses and fagoos
Uh,
and like the concept for like a it almost feels like a character for out of Bros, honestly,
oh,
in terms of like not that I've seen Bros, but like the same sort of like level of raunchiness and like, wait, this is normal.
yeah.
Then you've got this character who might after our high flying lawyer might be the most normal character in the cast, who's just an actress on a Chinese soap opera
Uh,
who happens to go to school with the high flying lawyer. So like the artist friend and the high flying lawyer have been friends ever since they were the only two Asian girls in their small town growing
uh,
up.
okay.
So with that setup, basically the high flying lawyer is going to China to close a big business deal, but she doesn't actually speak any Chinese, which is not what she told her company.
Okay.
So she brings along her loser artist friend. Basically, if he was a male character, she'd be played by Zach Galifianakis
Uh,
back when he was fatter.
okay.
Um, and they also run into but like the parents or somebody's parents kind of make them bring along the crazy one, and they also run into the actress there to reconnect.
Mhm.
And what we find out is that um, the slacker friend is very insistent that the lawyer meets her birth mother.
Okay.
So she ends up derailing the whole trip to do a road comedy trip about basically about them having wacky adventures through China.
Okay.
Now, one of the reviews I saw a headline for said that it was like there was kind of funny, but there was like a heartfelt thing there, and it was like it really is kind of a movie about figuring out who you are, because where I said this related to me growing up, I had a statistically unlikely number of Asian friends
Yeah.
in my close friend group, and they were that mix of adopted and like immigrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I could kind of see these characters in the various people I knew.
Okay.
Now the thing is, it's very much a raunchy movie, and it's like nobody has any intentions of having a family and settling down. Nobody's looking for Mr. Right. It's all about just going out and having fun. Um, so there are a bunch of hookup scenes, and
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
it's
guess that's to be expected with a movie like this.
right. Like although one of them is engaged, though I won't say who. There's also there were a few scenes that were kind of like it's also very sex positive in the sense that, well, of course you just hook up with people you just met like that. What are you, a prude or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and also there might be a camera view that's from the perspective of inside a female anatomy.
Oh. Ugh.
And I actually kind of find myself thinking, I think this might have been a better movie if they just focused on the friendship and heartfelt angle, because like there's some funny bits, and I enjoyed the funny bits. Like there were some like some of the things like the lawyer being weirdly racist against Chinese people, even though she was Chinese. That was amusing.
Mm,
Um, the and they actually did like one really subtle thing that I liked, where you, like while they're doing the introductory scene, setting things up, you have the two of them sitting watching TV, eating hot Cheetos. The Americanized one is just reaching her hands in and getting them dirty like an animal. But the one who is, like culturally Chinese was using chopsticks and keeping her fingers clean. So
uh,
that was actually like, as they were telling you about things, that actually communicated a lot of information in one go.
yeah.
So so yeah, I every time I find myself talking about this movie, I make it sound worse than I think it actually is. And there's a lot of people out there who would go, well, why are you put off by the raunchiness? That's just life. It's like, okay, then this movie is 100% for you. Uh, but I also, it's like, I enjoyed this movie more than a lot of people, specifically because of that friend group I had growing up.
Mm,
So like I think I connected with this movie more than most white people would, just because I had that experience. But
yeah.
I think there's also some universal stuff in here about finding yourself, and I almost would want to see what this would look like if they just made a drama out of it rather than a Seth Rogen-y comedy.
Yeah, or even like like a dramedy, if you will, something like I can't think of a filmmaker who makes movies like that, but yeah, some a nice mix of drama and comedy.
Yeah, like I think I for just my personal comfort level, I probably would have enjoyed the PG-13 version of this better.
Yeah,
But other people, if you are big on things like, well, from the producers of Bad Neighbors, This Is the End, and Blockers, which doesn't have an Oxford comma, and that bothers me in that title. If you like those movies, then go for it. Like it's just a little bit outside of my comfort zone in some areas.
yeah. And hey, Ninja, good to see you.
Yeah. So yeah, so
Yeah,
it's like a very tepid recommendation. Like it's just
yeah,
watch the trailer, and if you think you would enjoy it as a wacky slapstick sex comedy, then have at.
yeah. Yeah, so I guess with our thing of the week, it's good but
Meh.
not great. Meh. Yeah.
Yeah. It- and it's like yours is more mainstream and easy to watch. Mine
Yeah.
is like, wow, was this made specifically for me?
Yeah.
Which, at least as far as an American audience, or like a general American audience would go.
Yeah.
Which that kind of nicheness to it might explain why I think its total box office like what I think it might already be out of theaters. Let me just
Yeah.
joyride. I want to say it's like total box office internationally was like less than 5 mil or so. Oh, 14 mil. Okay. Did better than I thought.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so which is basically what Barbie brings in a day at this point. But,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
so I think we're ready to move on to pause to make Daniel's life easier editing.
Yeah.
The general box office, which is painting an interesting picture to my mind, which is going to really, I think it's got to have a lot of studios questioning a lot of their choices and might be influencing some of their current decisions, actually.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave Barbenheimer off of things. Also, this is the daily chart, which actually shows Ninja Turtles. Actually, Daniel, I have a conspiracy theory for you.
Yes.
We've been noticing more movies lately launching on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Yes.
Do you think it's a cynical attempt when they know that the movie isn't necessarily going to do that great to pad out their, like, because they'll report that in its since in the first weekend since opening this movie made X dollars, and they'll probably roll in the stuff from earlier in the week.
Yeah, that could very well be it. Yeah. Especially with Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Yeah. Now in Ninja Turtles case, I'll say That's probably fair enough because it is a kids movie, and this is like depending on what your school schedule is, this is the last couple of weeks that we're guaranteed to have kids be off school.
Yeah.
Because I know some school districts are starting in like 2 weeks or so.
Some have already started.
Really?
Yeah, it was like my like my niece and nephew, they started school today. So
Huh? See, up here in my state, it's almost like you're practically in September before you get started.
yeah,
It is.
yeah, it's
I suspect it's the interference of the travel industry trying to make sure that they don't let's just spread the business out a little bit for summer vacations.
yeah, yes,
Clearly, that's it.
yeah,
Actually, no, probably what's really going on is it's just like summer vacation was originally meant for like back when 90% of the country worked on farms.
uh,
And so like
yeah,
it was probably established for when the kids would be needed to help with the harvests in their particular area, would be my guess.
yeah. That would make sense. Yeah,
So like maybe the crop season is different up here in Washington State than like maybe the in Washington State the wheat and the apples and everything comes up at a different time than further down south.
yeah,
But anyhow, so we're gonna ignore Ninja Turtles outside of that statement, which we can't really talk about it yet because haven't hasn't had a weekend to talk about yet.
yeah,
What has had a weekend to talk about is the unasked for, unwanted Haunted Mansion movie.
uh, yeah,
We've
yeah,
talked before about like things like that. We'll make a stealth game about Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
yeah,
Like those things that make a little bit of sense if you're in a boardroom and don't know what you're talking about and you're just mashing your properties together.
yeah,
This doesn't even fit that. And like the executive who comes up with the idea for a Gollum stealth game would be like, well, we've made lots of money on Lord of the Rings video games in the past, and Gollum is one of the most common characters or most popular characters. So let's do it.
uh, yeah,
This is like, hey, remember that one Eddie Murphy movie that bombed 20 years ago when we tried to replicate the success of Pirates of the Caribbean?
yeah. Let's do a reboot of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oof.
well, I think a big so a couple of big things with this movie. Number one, they actually swapped the release date between this movie and the Marvels.
Right, because the Marvels is a dumpster fire that they keep having to try to do reshoots on.
Yes. Oh God, $90 million. That movie cost 90. Wow.
How much of that do you think was Eddie Murphy's check?
Probably about half of it.
Yep, that would explain it.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I remember when that movie came out, and it just looks so dumb. I'm like,
That
no.
that was when Eddie Murphy was in like the Pluto Nash, Norbert, Thousand Words stage of his career.
Yeah, he was doing more family friendly movies because his kids were young, and he wanted to make movies so that his kids could see
No.
him in.
And Norbert, it's like, well, shoot, if Martin Lawrence can make money putting on a female fat suit uh, and putting on a mammy voice, then why not me?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not proud.
yeah. But yes, as far as this version of Haunted Mansion, there probably wasn't a whole lot of marketing for it, or you know, because they kind of had to scramble to since they moved the release date up.
Right.
Yeah. Ninja says it's said that the only actress is happy to play a superhero is the one for Kamala Khan. Pretty sure Marvel secretly hates Miss Marvel at this point.
They want her to be a thing so badly. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like it's a perky, happy character who they keep doing stupid things with. And also, what do you want to bet that? So remember that Marvel's Avengers game?
Yes.
What do you want to bet that they would have probably sold an extra million units during its initial launch if Kamala Khan's role had been taken by Peter Parker?
That would probably would have been the highest one of the highest selling video games of all time.
Yeah. I, now, mind you, Sony has that Spider-Man exclusivity down on lock and key,
Right.
but it's like, oh, well, congratulations, guys. I hope all you PlayStation fans enjoyed your exclusive Spider-Man content about a year and a half after launch, when no one was playing the game anymore.
uh, that game wasn't that game was pretty good. I played it.
I couldn't get into it, but I'm not usually into 3D action, third-person action games like that unless it's Gears of War, really.
Oh yeah. Ninja says, and you see, I have to subtract the fact that it was an awful game. Yeah, the Avenger. I never played I didn't play the Avengers game, but I heard it wasn't very
Oh,
good.
you're talking about the actual Spider-Man game. Oh, okay,
Oh
that
yeah.
game. Okay, I was talking. What if Spider-Man was the head of the instead of Kamala Khan? And did you ever play the Avengers game?
No, I didn't.
They had it on Game Pass, so I gave it a shot.
Yeah.
And the first 15, 20 minutes is Kamala being very cringy and fangirlish around a Avengers convention.
Oh jeez.
That's your tutorial, which is clever enough, but
Yeah.
uh, it, it's a character who you want to like, but very often is unlikable
Yeah.
because of her just because of how they write her.
Yeah.
But
But yeah.
anyhow,
Yeah.
again, they didn't have a chance to market this thing, but I don't think, and it's also like, yeah, let's release our our Halloween tentpole in late July.
Yeah. It's yeah. Ninja says, yeah, the Spider-Man was awesome. The sequel, there's a lot of decision I'm not happy with. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've heard there's some. I didn't. I didn't. I don't like what they've done with MJ. She looks really weird. Um, but yeah, yeah. This movie, like from everything I've heard about it, I've either heard it's all right, it's either okay or it's really bad. Um, and and which probably didn't help with the performance of the movie. And
No.
yeah, there wasn't really a whole lot of. Uh, and by the way, I've been over at Disney World, yeah,
Hmm.
a few times. Like I was there about 6 weeks ago.
Hmm.
Nothing about this movie.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that has to be why they keep thinking they can make a movie out of this, is because as memory serves, this is one of the more popular rides, just in
yeah,
general.
yeah. It is. It's one of the original Disneyland rides. Yeah.
And that might reflect why it has a bigger domestic box office than international, because probably, yeah, if you're in America, you're statistically more likely to have gone to a Disney theme park and
Hmm.
enjoyed Haunted Mansion than if you're international.
Yeah, yeah, and and I think a lot of the people who will really enjoy the movie are the people who go to the parks all the time and they love the ride because apparently it has all the references to the ride.
Mm,
Yeah, so little you're like, oh, I understood that reference. I understood that reference.
mm. Which, that propelled Mario to $1 billion, so
Yeah,
it can work.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so Haunted Mansion came out to no real hype or aplomb.
yeah,
Sound of Freedom is still clicking away there.
yeah. They added 128 theaters.
Yep. It's
So,
slowing down a little bit, but it's still up there every day.
yeah.
Meanwhile, I think it's fair to say at this point that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is a bomb.
Oh yeah, yeah. That thing dropped like a lead balloon. Man.
Yeah. Let's hear. Talk to me. What kind of sad A24 movie is it? Oh, that's right. It's a horror
It's a
movie.
horror movie. Yeah.
Okay. Indiana Jones, man, people thought that Mission Impossible was going to be, move aside, Disney. We're going to show you how to make a action movie with a beloved a character who's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Oops.
Actually, no way. No, Mission Impossible is going to outperform it overall. Not enough to be profitable on its ridiculous budget, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100 million ahead. Oof.
Ugh, man.
With less time in theaters. So at least it's not doing that bad.
Yeah.
Elemental, meanwhile, is finally starting to lose theaters and slow down. But I always want to say that it really outperformed its first weekend. So I do wonder if it could have done better if they had like really advertised it properly.
Yeah, I think it could have. Yeah, it could have done like what was that? The movie with the emotions.
Oh, I, I was going to be cruel and
Inside
say
Out.
Emoji Movie, but
Emoji. Inside Out. Inside Out
yeah,
was it? Yeah.
yeah,
It
like
probably could have. Probably could have. I don't know what that movie did, but maybe
um,
something along those lines.
I think Inside Out is like I think it's like the last one that people kind of say, yeah, that had that Pixar magic, which they're now
Oh
making a
no,
sequel
no.
to it.
Oh, they're making a sequel. Oh, maybe not that. 850 worldwide. Yeah, probably not. But
Yeah.
it could have done. It could have maybe done like another 200 million more.
Yeah. I mean, just for a point of comparison, it's going to end better than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with a budget 100 million less.
Yeah.
So still a loss, but not the like absolute critical loss that I was expecting
Yeah.
based on that first weekend. So, and let's see here. Does my memory serve me? Is it going to end up with about twice of Lightyear's? Firefox remembers that I've looked for Lightyear many times as we've talked about this movie. Yeah, it's going to end up with basically double Lightyear's box office,
There you go.
which may actually lead into a thesis I have that we may discuss in a minute. But
Oh, yeah.
let's hear. Rounding out the top 10, we've got Insidious: The Red Door, horror movie, no opinion.
Yeah.
I hear it isn't great, but it's a franchise, and horror movies let the kids go and get scared and maybe uh, do some heavy petting in the dark. But
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like the fifth movie in the franchise. So yeah, usually when horror franchises get that deep, it's like, okay, come on.
you're going to start contradicting yourselves, and
Yeah, yeah. When are you gonna go to space? Chinggis says, yeah, real shame about Mission Impossible. Yeah, I
yeah,
haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. But um,
I've only seen two of those movies, and it was like the first one, and then I think Rogue Nation,
mm,
or
I, I, th-
it was one that was done by J.J. Abrams, which is part of why I had
there's the
false.
three. Yeah,
It wasn't. That was past three.
oh, it's past three.
Yeah, it was
Um,
like more recent than that. But anyway, it was one done by J.J. Abrams, which might have given me some false hope for Star Wars.
oh yeah. And Ninja says, I wonder how each Mission Impossible movie did compared to Bond films. Um,
I think Bond is a bigger performer overall.
yeah, and there are more Bond movies than
Yeah,
the Mission Impossible,
hard to compare.
yeah. Although the Craig movies overall did pretty well.
Yeah,
Uh,
like the last one edged out to like 900 million just because it had very long legs, even though it launched during pandemic times.
yeah. I think Skyfall was the highest one in that of those five, but
Yeah, man, Little Mermaid might be Disney's biggest success of the summer.
that's saying a lot.
Yeah, which considering it's like half as many as half as many as the what do you call it? As the other live action Disney remakes.
Yeah, hey, I think yeah, because like Aladdin, I think almost did a billion, close to a
Uh,
billion.
I think Aladdin actually. So 2019 was a magical year for Disney.
Yes, it
Uh,
was.
if you count Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, which probably didn't earn money because of all of the um, because of all of the reshoots they had to do with it. 2019 box office, here, annual box office. I think there were like 9 movies that Disney put out that made $1 billion. So you got Avengers Endgame, Lion King, Frozen 2, Toy Story 4, Captain Marvel, Star Wars. Yeah, the only movies that were in the top 10 box
Uh,
offices that released in 2019 that were not Disney somehow, Spider-Man Far Away Home, which is like a partial Disney win anyway.
yeah, yeah, and then
And then,
Joker and It Chapter 2.
yeah, so 7 out of the 10 wholly owned by Disney, one of them like a quarter owned by Disney.
Yeah,
But so yeah, so Disney has fallen on hard times.
yeah.
Also, wow, 2020, like here's their trajectory tracking based on the first
And
couple of months, and then lockdown.
yeah.
But
uh,
but that's neither here nor there.
yeah.
So let's get back to. So I'm gonna make a little bit of a pause here for the ease of Daniel's editing, should he choose to separate this into a separate video.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
So, Barbenheimer, still ruling the box office. Though I think Oppenheimer is losing a little bit more steam during the dailies than Barbie is.
Yeah, because and that may be because A, it's over 3 hours long, and B,
Hmm.
it's rated R.
Yep. Um, it's like if you have little kids, what's going to be the easiest thing to go see? Well, probably if you have boys and girls, maybe Elemental, but if you
Yeah.
have girls, then Barbie seems like a clear win.
Hmm.
And some people have tried to make some culture war statements about Barbie. I have not seen the movie. Um, I would actually be in kind of the target audience to see the movie because I consumed some Barbie media growing up, having a sister.
Mm.
And if I show up at a holiday and they say, "Oh, let's watch Barbie together," I will probably say yes.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but, uh, but I'm not going to go out to the theaters for it by myself.
Yeah. For me, like, yeah, I haven't seen it either. I'm not going to go out of my way to see it. Um, if I get talked into watching it, I'll probably watch it. But yeah,
Yeah, Oppenheimer, I could see myself seeing that at some point, but that would probably be like watching it with some friends on a movie day.
yeah, yeah. I'll definitely be watching that over streaming, and
Mm.
I may even spread that out over a couple of days.
Yeah, maybe they should do like they did for Zack Snyder's Justice League on Max and split it into chapters so it's easy to start and stop.
Yeah,
Um, but this, so well, let's take a look at what some of the biggest movies this year have been. Now, by the way, Oppenheimer doing very nicely for itself. Like it's making money in 2 weeks that other movies this year have struggled to make in a month.
yeah,
So I think but I don't know it's necessarily going to be number 3. I'd have to go back over the box office, and Little Mermaid could, depending on how much it slows down, Little Mermaid could end up edging it out over time.
mm,
Because it's at like 500 million. This is like 440. Never mind. It's going to be Little Mermaid.
yeah.
So that could put the top 3 movies of the year as either Barbie or Mario in first place. Actually, unranked: Barbie, Mario, Oppenheimer.
Strange, strange movie year.
Actually, no, wait, I forgot about Spider Verse.
Oh, Spider Verse. Yeah,
Yeah, Oppenheimer. Actually, So if a movie usually makes about half of its box office in its first 2 weeks, Oppenheimer could theoretically, okay, if it had very good holds, it could theoretically net out to like 800 million, which would put it in Spider Verse's. Anyhow,
yeah,
I'll just bring up Spider Verse for completeness.
yeah.
But what 3 of those movies have in common is that they've either not had a significant movie in decades, like Mario,
Mm,
and Barbie's never had like a mainstream movie. Like there've been lots of straight to DVD kids movies and stuff, of course. But
Yeah.
um, Oppenheimer, historical fiction, like those aren't usually like necessarily the blockbusters.
No, they're usually yeah, smaller box office Oscar bait movies.
Yeah, in fact, let's find out. 1917. Yeah, like it's already outperformed the total box office run of 1917.
Wow.
And there's been ticket inflation, but not that much ticket inflation since 2019.
Yeah.
So, what I think this might be reflecting is the end of. I used to think it was, oh, people just aren't giving any movie the benefit of the doubt anymore. Like
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
they were
sorry, go
waiting
ahead.
until week 2 if
Yeah.
they're going to see it at all.
Yeah.
And then Barbenheimer swooped in and just completely dropped a bomb on that theory.
In Oppenheimer's case,
Yes.
probably literally.
So what I think we might actually be seeing here is the death of the old or of the current paradigm. It's like I would love to go back and just like figure out when the Western died. N- Not
I
like not that
Yeah.
Westerns have completely vanished, but they're much rarer.
They used to be, like yeah, there were almost all the time, whether it was movies or TV shows. I would say it probably started slowly dying off like in the early 70s.
Yeah, that might have been when they started like when you started having these Italian places and other places in Europe just start spitting them out like yeah, like there were like I think there was one year I remember I think I was watching a Razor Fist movie on the subject and there was like some year where there were like 500 Western movies that came out or some ridiculous number like that
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
fairly cheap to make at least at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And then yeah, of course you had the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns.
Yep.
And of course all the John Wayne movies. Yeah, I would say probably actually the movie that probably killed westerns was Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
That was in 1980, I think.
So here,
Uh,
Holy Ninja
Ninja
says
says,
Oppenheimer's only. Oh, go ahead.
God. Oppenheimer is only 100 mil behind Dunkirk, his previous Nolan's previous historical film.
Did Dunkirk come out after 1917, or was that 1917 even? No, 1917 was Nolan, right?
1917 was
Or am I?
the 1917 I think was the guy that did Skyfall.
Oh, okay. Well, shows clearly a fake movie fan. Then I thought this was a Nolan movie. You're right. I was thinking of Dunkirk,
Yeah, Dunkirk was Nolan.
but still, 1917 doing that well for being a historical movie. It's the
Yeah,
war that people don't like to talk about because it isn't as clear cut. Like
right. Yeah. Um, yeah, and Ninja predicts it'll probably be Barbie, Across the Spider Verse, and Mario as the top spots. Yeah, I can see
uh,
that.
I think Barbie and Mario are a shoe in. We'll just see how Oppenheimer legs out compared to Spider Verse.
Yeah, Sam Mendes. Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Yep. Fake geek boy.
that's okay.
You can go. You can go ahead and shun me.
Nah.
But anyhow, what those movies have in common is that Barbie, a Barbie movie made by somebody who clearly had a message to say.
Mhm.
And what's funny is that so I occasionally watch stuff from the Daily Wire. I got to say that Ben Shapiro as a media critic might have some of the most off-base takes I've ever heard very frequently. Like I remember him saying that, oh yeah, he liked Batman v Superman better than Captain America: Civil War,
Uh,
and not even the extended home release cut that fixed the plot holes. And he also trashed Barbie. Then I didn't bother watching his review because I think Ben Shapiro often has very off-base takes on media. So
Yeah.
so why bother? Uh, Then Matt Walsh, who's also over there, had a take on it, where basically he saw it as satire of uh, a particular side of the aisle and a particular philosophy.
Uh,
And he had kind of seen a similar sort of satire poke at that side of the aisle in one of the director's previous movies, Lady Bird.
hmm.
So what that tells me is that if you can have two people, now I don't know how Matt Walsh is as a general media critic. So is he seeing something in the movie that isn't there? Possible, but it shows you that it isn't like, oh, trying to think of, it isn't a Flash where it has very little to recommend it outside of nostalgia.
Yeah.
If two reasonable-ish adults can come into it from similar perspectives and come away with different takes on the movie, it's at least saying something.
Yeah. And I think that's a big reason why the movie's doing so well. Is because it means different things to different people. And when you have a movie like that where different people are going to get different things out of it, they're going to get enjoyment from it, and so they're going to see it, they're going to like it, they're going to want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm almost talking myself into that being a thing of the week sometime this month,
Mm,
just just because I'm curious. And it sounds
yeah,
generally fun.
yeah.
Meanwhile, Christopher Nolan does not make movies that Christopher Nolan does not want to make, except maybe the third Batman movie.
Yeah, he clearly didn't want to do that one. Uh,
Uh, uh, and Mario movie. I mean, everyone's a fan of Mario, so everybody working on that was probably having so much fun cramming every reference. Like, we're gonna do Mario 64 and Mario and Super Mario Brothers and the three
Donkey Kong, yeah.
the DS games, and we're gonna have an obscure character who employed the Mario Brothers in a game that nobody's played from the NES. Like that buff guy who I thought was like who was purple with like Jet, I think his name was, or whatever the guy with the sunglasses was named.
Yeah.
He had a game for the NES that featured the Mario Brothers where he was their boss. So that's like that's the type of deep cuts they were doing there.
Wow. Yeah, the only characters missing were Wario and Yoshi. Although if you watch the post credits, Yoshi shows up. And Ninja says Barbie had a clear vision with an interpretation. And he also says the prevailing narrative is that it's an accidental critique where they pushed so hard it circled back to parody.
It's possible. I mean, here's the thing. Um, I would say that one of the best ways to make an atheist is to subject them to really bad arguments for the existence of God.
Yeah.
Um, or for that matter, the best way to make a conservative is to subject them to really bad arguments for liberalism. I mean, it's like they like if you have a belief and you keep coming across bad arguments for it, you're going to eventually start questioning, am I dumb for having this belief?
Yeah.
Even if there are totally rational beliefs, but because you keep hearing the bad ones, you eventually like hit a tipping point, right?
Right.
Wh-
Yeah.
where you can get kind of forced into some like cognitive dissonance. Like
Yeah.
if this movie is a bad argument for feminism, then it could have a similar effect.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting about Barbie to me, and this is like a phenomenon I've heard about in like polling for years. People in our age bracket and younger, there's like a more of a clear split in political alignment between the sexes.
Yeah.
More men are conservative, more women are liberal. And this movie, even if Matt Walsh is seeing like secret conservative messages, on the surface level that most people are going to appreciate this movie on, this is probably like this is probably finally a movie that's actually meant for modern women. It isn't Star Wars being dressed up in feminist gear to try and uh, you know please like us.
Yeah.
The, this isn't oh, this isn't He-Man baiting you with He-Man and then making the show about Tila.
Yeah.
This is just, it's a girly movie that's meant to appeal to feminine people,
Yes.
and that's okay. Um, and it's kind of there's also like been a phenomenon where because more women are going to college than men because they've kind of they've kind of been encouraging it for a long time. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
there are a lot of women who are primary breadwinners in households, which might make it, or are just single and able to support themselves on their paycheck for their college requiring job.
Yeah.
Uh, guys, that's a you've been attacking this market in the dumbest way possible.
Yeah.
Don't take the boys' properties and try to make it appeal to the millennial women.
Yeah. Yes. Actually take girls' properties and make it appeal to women.
Yeah, Sex in the City is always a big seller for a reason,
Yeah.
because it appeals to that audience.
Yes.
So, but what also makes these movies is that, like I was saying before, they are movies that aren't tied to existing movie franchises,
Right.
which to my mind means it's not so much that people have stopped giving the benefit of the doubt. It's just like, oh, I've seen 7 Transformers movies. I've seen 7 Mission Impossible movies. I've seen 30 plus Marvel movies. I've seen I've seen what they've gotten up to like now, like 10, probably 10 total DCEU movies,
Yeah. So yeah, somewhere
something
around
like
there.
that.
Yeah.
Holy Ninja says, make more trashy, questionable romance films with shirtless man covers. Yes, that's how you get people back into theaters.
Yep.
Even during the pandemic, a lot of people went out to go see Channing Tatum as kind of a dumb himbo in that Lost City movie.
Yeah. Uh,
He takes his shirt off several times in the movie.
mm,
They know their market.
yes. Uh,
So yeah, and also Sound of Freedom is kind of an outlier, but it's still similar in that it's not like it's the fourth movie in the Sound of Freedomiverse,
right. Yeah.
in the Save Childreniverse.
Yeah.
So I think that what we're seeing here is like people are just more interested in things that are new and unique,
Mm.
or at least they're rewarding them in the box office.
Yes, and they're punishing the franchises that are getting tired and worn out, and nobody
Yeah,
cares about them anymore.
I mean, let's see here, Flash is still up here. Yeah, okay. Oh, the Flash managed to cross 100 million. Good job. Clap, clap, clap. Yeah, it's combined global box office after 7 weekends, 107 million, or excuse me, 260 million. Um, Barbie more or less made that its first week.
Yeah. Man.
So, yeah, I actually find this very encouraging, just overall, because it's like I went out to go see Joyride. There isn't a Joyriderverse. I just thought that movie's oh, dang, I'm totally blanking on the guy, on the film threat guy.
Chris Gore.
Chris Gore made it sound intriguing, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen a movie about 4 Asian American women going on a raunchy road trip in China. Sure, I'll give that a shot.
Yeah. Ninja says, "Yeah, Cheng is good for you, Flash." And Ninja says, "People like novelty more than stability, especially after years of the same types of films." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the superhero movie phenomena is that if it's building towards something, then it can really work.
Hmm.
Like I think that part of the MCU's success is that they did keep dribbling hints about the Infinity Stones and
Yeah.
Thanos and stuff. So that when they finally paid that off, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, what's the MCU building towards right now? In fact, we explicitly know that the DCEU is building towards nothing.
Yeah.
So, like,
Uh,
bold strategy there, Cotton. Tell people in advance that the movies you're releasing are good but have nowhere to go.
yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I think is a good transition to talk about our final topic here.
Yes.
James Gunn is developing, Gal Gadot claims to be developing Wonder Woman 3 with James Gunn, who is maybe not rebooting the entire DCEU after all.
Hey.
For those of you listening along, I'm currently massaging my temples because this makes me irritated.
Yes, and I'm I'm angrily tapping my fingers.
So, ouch. Let's hear. When did I forget, when did Black Adam come out? Like last October?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So last October, uh, Black Adam came out. It bombed. It was probably the last chance of keeping the DCEU going. And while that was happening, they brought in James Gunn, and they quickly announced, Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck are out. Gal Gadot was announced later.
Mhm.
Now, this PO'd a lot of the core fan base who had been enjoying the DCEU more than I had.
Yeah. And Chinggis, okay.
And it made people question, like, why does the universe seem to hate Henry Cavill? Why is it this guy who is one of us, who is just a buff nerd,
Yeah.
deep down, who almost missed out being Superman in the first place because he was busy playing World of Warcraft when the call came in,
Yeah.
who actually read the Witcher novels and had notes?
Yeah.
He either played the novel or read the
I
novels or
play.
watched the game.
I think he played video games. I think too. Yeah.
Yeah, might have. I mean, when he got the part, he might have read the novels. But
Yeah.
regardless, someone who's one of our people.
Yes.
Well, why can't the guy catch a break? Because you know that Amazon is not going to do Warhammer 40K justice.
No.
It's one of the reasons why I'm glad that BattleTech is as relatively obscure as it is, because I don't have to worry about Netflix ruining it with a low budget CGI movie or something.
Right. Yeah.
But I can't see Amazon being hands off enough to make this a good TV show for Warhammer.
No.
But the thing of it is that I gave a lot of benefit of the doubt at the time to James Gunn and Warner Brothers. People who watched will recall that, because I'd
Yes.
basically gone along with the idea. Okay, you need a clean break. It's going to confuse. It's already. There are enough people out there already confused enough, wondering why isn't Iron Man showing up in Justice League? Because unless you're in the know, they're all just superheroes to you.
Yeah.
Um, but like Gal Gadot is mostly good as Wonder Woman. Like she was bad in Wonder Woman 84, but everything was bad in Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole movie was just. Yeah.
But it's kind of nice seeing her again when I saw The Flash. So it's just like, okay, that's the end of it. We are clean break from the past because we don't want to confuse the people. We're throwing Henry Cavill under the bus. So, because my vision is for a young Superman.
Uh-huh.
Okay, James, if you could stick to that story, I would give you a lot of, I gave you a lot of benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And then the Flash bombed horribly.
Yeah.
And then after, yeah, like since that announcement, we'll say they've had 4 DCEU movies, 5 if you count Black Adam.
Yeah.
Not a one has actually been any sort of success. Shazam 2, bomb.
Bombed. Yeah.
Black Adam, bombed. Uh,
Flash bombed.
Flash, big one of the biggest bombs of all time.
Yeah.
Blue Beetle. I've seen projections of that one where it might make 30 million its entire U.S. domestic box office run.
Yeah.
That would be on the low end, but at this point, I would believe it. I would have thought that was impossible. I was expecting that to be like, okay, it might be like a baseline hit, like 100 million,
Yeah.
150 in the States, and then like another, double that worldwide,
Yeah. Yeah, a modest success, but no, it's probably gonna just bomb.
bomb. Aquaman 2 sound like all indications make it sound like it's the worst of the movies from like just a technical level so far.
Yeah, and I've been hearing rumors too that they might push the release date back on that because of the strikes.
Yeah. But okay, but jerking around all of these actors who like the cast was never the problem with the DCEU.
Right.
Part of why the DCEU worked as well as it did is because you had all these actors who were putting their best into these performances.
Yeah. Although I'm still kind of wishy-washy about Ben Affleck.
Fair
Mm,
enough.
yeah.
You kind of wish or you may not wish this. I kind of wish he had gotten his own movie just to like really see what he could be.
Mm,
Oh, and of course, I'm leaving out Ezra Miller, who I think is pretty universally seen as awful choice.
yeah. Yeah.
Unless you have a thing for non-binary people and defend them uh, automatically, which I have seen on Twitter.
Oh man. Yeah, and I will say, like, Jason Momoa was good as Aquaman, although I think in in reality he should have been playing Lobo.
Yep, from the start.
Yeah,
But like you've burned a lot of goodwill with these bomb movies,
yeah,
and then and you also burned a lot of will with the core fan base who would have probably gone to see those movies if you hadn't told them, yeah, nothing matters, and we're gonna just jerk around Henry Cavill when he thinks he's coming back.
yeah,
But at least if you treat everyone equally and everything is equally reset, then fair enough. You have a plan.
yeah,
If this is accurate, the hell.
yeah, yeah. They're basically just throwing all that out, or it's just like, okay,
You do not have a valid reason to do this if the whole point was to avoid confusing the normies by keeping some of the actors around.
yeah, and yeah. So bringing Gal Gadot back is just like, yeah, it's gonna just completely throw everything out of whack.
And you could say, oh, but she was probably the best character. She was the one with I think the highest grossing solo movie besides Aquaman, which that was mostly people wanting to see him shirtless. So
Yeah.
let's be honest here.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And Ninja says, I was about to say that Bruce Timm should have led the DCEU. Then I remembered the Killing Joke.
Yeah, probably Paul Dini would have been the better choice since he was like the writer of a lot of that stuff in the '90s
Yeah,
cartoons.
yeah. I think Paul Dini was kind of like would have to rein Bruce Timm in a lot. Like, no, you
Yep.
can't do
Right.
that. No.
Like, look, we know you're sexually obsessed with Barbara Gordon, but she has to wear a shirt in this scene. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'll show you when we adapt the Killing Joke. I'm
yeah,
gonna totally throw in an unnecessary romance subplot with Bruce and Barbara because I shipped that,
yeah.
and you
uh,
can't stop me.
yeah, yeah.
But this just seems like a bad choice to me all around.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I mean, as much as I liked Gal Gadot as not just as Wonder Woman, but just in general. I mean, I've seen her in other movies, and she's been good in most of what she's done. But yeah, this is I think this is a mistake. And and I think it's can't remember who it was. If somebody at Midnight's Edge pointed this out, like she's pushing 40.
Hmm.
And to have a almost 40-year-old actress around a 20 something Superman just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah, and because that's going to automatically make a different dynamic. Because like if there are superheroes who start at roughly the same time, that works.
Yeah.
If Wonder Woman has all these experiences, and she's like old enough to technically, yeah, not to be that actor's mother, but depending on how old they make the character's mother, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's weird. That makes her
Yeah.
the mom in the Trinity.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully this is may just be nothing, or you know maybe they'll cooler heads might prevail and they won't do with it. James Gunn
there's
won't do this, but
there's also the chance that, because when I was reading this article, she says it's in development. Gal Gadot says, "I love portraying Wonder Woman." Gadot says, "It's so close and dear to my heart." From what I heard from James and from Peter, is that we're going to develop a Wonder Woman 3 together. Okay. Um,
yeah.
while Gunn has seemingly been working towards a near total rebooting of the DC film action or live DC Comics live action universe, Gadot continued to be a presence in the latest films. She appeared in both Shazam: Fury of the Gods and The Flash, while Cavill was reportedly cut from the latter.
Mm,
Um, if he was, yeah, he was cut from like the end sequence of the latter where they were going to set things up,
okay.
because you don't want to have Superman around during the Flash scenes towards the start, because that would have it would have made the Flash unnecessary, since Superman. You remember the scene in Justice League where Superman could track the Flash at top speed and hit him?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like Flash doesn't get to be Flash if Superman is on that level of speed.
Yeah.
But shortly after the initial Wonder Woman 3 news hit, Gunn has also shot down a fan who claimed that Gadot was booted from the Amazonian warrior role, which at the time suggested she may stick around for Gunn's retooled DC universe. It's also conceivable that he didn't like the way that was phrased.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find the actual. I'm not sure where you're getting that we booted Gal. That's cryptic.
Yeah.
That could be booting is such a harsh word. We more invited her not to come back.
Yeah.
So she could be trying to play public relations games to make something happen, and he's just being stone faced about it.
Yeah.
That's also a valid interpretation.
That's
Kind of the interpretation I hope for, honestly.
yeah. Yeah, me too. And it just says, have her play Hippolyta if you really need her in the Guns
Now
DC universe.
that'll confuse people still, because she'll basically still be Wonder Woman if she's in Amazon. I feel like either clean
Yeah.
break or I don't know. There's not a good answer. And there's
Yeah.
been weird things about Superman, the new Superman movie, like Mr. Terrific is in it, Guy Gardner is in it.
Yeah.
This is that fanboy capture thing I've talked about before, where the DC universe in particular, it's weird for dichotomy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marvel is mostly staffed at this point by people who do not like or care about the comic books. And like I think was it the director of WandaVision who said she didn't know how to actually read a comic? It was
Oh,
one of
really?
yeah.
What?
So yeah, so everybody who wasted time having theories about WandaVision based on the comics, she literally could not have included them.
Wow. Yeah, and I know the writer on either the writer or the director on Secret Invasion didn't read the comic books.
Yeah, and it shows. It's like
Yeah.
Marvel. It's like, yeah, and is it Marvel? Or I think it was Star Trek, where they like, if you wanted to write on that show, you had to imply you had no memory or love for the series. But it's like a similar thing at Marvel, where it seems like the people who get in are not the people who know it. Conversely, over at DC, it's like you have the biggest fanboys in the world who've been elevated and aren't necessarily caring about making things that the average person would give a crap about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the average person just wants a Superman movie where Superman maybe punches Lex Luthor in the face, or maybe Zod, or um,
Or
might try give a
Brainiac,
try if you
or
do a Brainiac thing.
yeah,
They don't necessarily want a Superman movie to start off interconnected and with the Justice League, but but, but James Gunn, lifelong DC fanboy, uh, darn it, he wants Guy Gardner in the movie. He wants to make Creature Commandos. He wants to make oh geez, he wants to make Swamp Thing.
yeah, yeah.
God, it's
Uh,
just it's can we get a happy medium? Can we
y-
do like can we kind of have like what we had at Marvel, where you have directors like James Gunn who get like restrained a bit by the heads of Marvel?
yeah,
Like look, just have we can have Howard the Duck because it's kind of funny, but it can be in the ending credits. It's just
yeah. It's just-
yeah,
mm,
eh. This is why you guys are losing to Barbie,
yeah,
because you're confusing people and annoying the core fan base.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I thought they could afford to have a string of bombs, but I'm starting to think that because you PO'd the core fan base, you're not going to have a huge audience for this new Superman movie.
yeah. I think so too. Yeah. Well,
Which is a shame because James Gunn is a good superhero movie writer. He just keeps making strange choices.
yeah, yeah. He just like you were saying, he needs somebody to kind of go, yeah, James, come on, come on. No, no, pull it back a little.
Oh God, I think that the way we'll know that that Superman movie is well and truly doomed,
Mhm.
um, if we hear any like sort of hype about the amazing mixtape soundtrack of that movie.
Oh boy.
Because I want to say they kind of did the same thing in his Suicide Squad movie, where there was like a very pop song infused soundtrack.
Uh, yeah. Well, that works for Guardians of the Galaxy, but not Superman.
No,
No. Yeah.
unless you want to just be like very different and make it like all country bluegrass to reflect his Kansas origin, which they're not going to do, I don't think.
No, I don't know. Yeah.
Unlikely.
And yeah. And Ninja says James Gunn needs to make the best Superman film to have success. Yeah.
Yep. But we'll see how much goodwill he's torched. But being inconsistent with poor Henry Cavill over all this,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's. Yeah. Well, I think we've exhausted this topic.
Yes, this angry rant has been brought to you by the Critique Corner.
Yes. Well, all right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always.
Yep.
Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications, and we will see you next week. Good night,
Night,
everybody.
everyone.